Win up to £25,000. The Community Lottery, a subscription-based lottery that allows you to continue to support good causes that matter. When you win, good causes win. Every month, eligible good causes have the opportunity to win a share of funds that could help them continue the good work that they do in our communities. To apply, there's no complicated forms, nor do you have to be a registered charity. Just grab your phone, send us a 60-second video explaining your good cause and the difference having extra funding would make to your project. Visit thecommunitylottery.com. Hit the play button and sign up for either 13 weekly draws or by direct debit for just £4.35 that gives you 4 weekly draws. You could have the chance of winning £25,000. The aim of the Community Lottery is to create an additional source of funding that will enable good causes to undertake innovative projects that matter. If you're in, the communities win.
Hello. Welcome once again to your favorite TV show, What a Week. My name is Tony Crossbody, and if you see my big head first, that means, unfortunately, my co-host, Mr. C, is not here this evening. Unfortunately, Mr. C is on celebrity duty. So, I'm left all on my own. I said, C, how am I going to live without you for that show? He said, don't worry, man. Don't worry. You'll be fine. So here we are, 2 hours. Can I do it? 2 hours, you, me, chatting away. Good evening, Carolyn. Throws through the door. My goodness. Through the door. Oh, goodness. Yeah, we're here. Live. Come in. Don't worry, Mr. C will be back next week, but he's on celebrity duty tonight, so unfortunately he can't be with us. Evening, Rudy. How you doing, bro? Yeah, man. I can do it with your help. Carolyn says I will do. Is that why you're not coming late into the chat tonight? Because you knew Mr. C wasn't going to be here, and you thought, oh man, I'd rather not go and see the show. No, don't worry, we're here. It's a lovely day today. I think it was somewhere in the 70s, was it? I don't recall. I didn't actually go out, but it's very, very warm. Good evening, Sandra Henry. Hey, Karen James, how you doing? Good evening, good evening, good evening. A few people soon coming in. It's like, this is like the first bit of the rave, isn't it? When you go into a rave and you just hear the DJs playing music and you're just thinking about getting your coat and going to the bar and who's playing that music, right? Getting yourself together. Rolling, rolling, rolling. It's Tony on his own. It's the Tony Crossbody Show. That's what it is. Let's call it that. The Tony Crossbody Show for this evening. Myself having to talk double time because Mr. C is not here with us. So, guys, how you been doing? How you been doing? How has your day been? How has your week been so far, in fact? Because, of course, the week started yesterday. So, back to work. Are you guys still at home, or what are you guys doing? Or some of you going to the office now on a regular basis? I'm still at home, so it's okay for me. I don't have to go anywhere. So what are you doing? What are you doing? Carolyn says, what do you say, Carolyn? Missed you last week. Wasn't on. Really lovely day. Yes, sir. Good evening, Jimmy. How you doing, sir? Good evening, Charmaine Bradshaw. How you doing, Charmaine? Just me one, so you guys are gonna have to talk to me, seriously, because I can't talk for me and C. Right? So we're gonna have to carry the show tonight together as we go through, and then we're gonna hit the Black History. Got some really interesting things to talk about. Hopefully will blow your mind. But for now, let's just have a nice little chat to see what's what. So Rudolph says, I've been driving around in a hot car all day. Yeah, bro. No, where's the aircon then? No aircon? Karen, the drinks aren't me tonight. No, Karen, what is supposed to happen when you come to me, you are supposed to bring the drinks and some sandwich. Good evening, Blossom. Charmaine says, oh, she's at home. Oh my goodness. And that's what you're hating it, talking about returning to the office, and you don't really want to do more than, 2 days a week, if that, maybe just 1 day. Yeah. Yes, Jimmy, was it? Yep. Yeah. Yes, brother. Appreciate you tuning in. Sometimes it's like that, and sometimes we do have these long shows. Yeah. So Charmaine, are they going to have you in every week, every day, or is it just a couple of days a week? Yeah. I hear that, Rudy. Good evening, Phil. How you doing? Welcome. Hey, Blossom. Yeah, we'll be fine. All of us together. We'll chat. You know what? I had a really, really. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. No, okay. Okay. You gotta bring. Come on, man. You gotta bring something when you come. When you go to people's house, they invite you to come to their house. Do you bring a little something, a little bottle of something, or a little, and say, look, this is for you. You don't expect the person in the house to. Come on. Carolyn, you can't wait to get back. Is that because you can't wait to get back? You're bored at home. Let me see that. What's Charmaine saying there? I'm seeing. Ooh, these comments are flying up, man. Where's the management? Yeah, this is guy. There you go. So I'm sipping the cold Pinot Grigio right now. Regarding work, I'll be requesting 2 days, but they may ask for 3. Okay. Yeah. Ask for 1, Charmaine. Then they're going to tell you 2, and then you'll be happy with that, isn't it? So, Karen, you are teaching your classes in the park and enjoying it. Are you a fitness instructor, Karen? Are you a fitness instructor? Because I need some work. You know what? I decided, right? I decided in June, I'm going to try and get my belly down. Now, why do we wait till the sun comes out before we decide we're going to start losing some weight? And I should have thought about that since April or May. But nope, April or May was too cold. Now it's June. I want to start working out. And by the time my belly comes down, it's going to be winter. Watch. Yep. So look, you know what, guys? It was a lovely weekend, but I was actually agonizing, believe it or not. And it's something really trivial, but I want to share it with you. I was agonizing as to whether I should cut my beard. What do you think? What do you think? No, Charmaine, go in low. Let them negotiate it up because they're going to put it up. So if you say 2, it's going to be 4. Say 1 and they're going to say, you cheeky. No, at least 2. Then you go, okay, 2. But I'm thinking of shaving my beard, guys. I don't know. I had planned on growing it for a year, but it's kind of getting a bit out of control, man. I might have to cut that. I wonder what the women say. So Charmaine says, Karen can help you keep fit. She does early morning skipping in the park. Oh, Karen, no, man, not early, man. I can't wake up early. Can we do something like after work? Carolyn. I'll happily go back to work. Karen works in the industry of rubbing up. Oh, okay. Does she get paid for rubbing up then? Karen, can we do a workout after work, please? Yeah, I need to get my belly down. But Jemmy says he wish he could grow. You know what, Jem? The funny thing is, right? I've only started growing my beard like just about 10 years ago. But before, it was just patchy, and it just looked really horrible. Now, well, some people say it looks horrible now, but now it kind of grows more fuller, you know. But I figured, you know what? Now big man now, so I really need to leave it, you know. But I've had a few women sort of complain to me, tell me, oh, what happens if your food goes in there? Start giving me a complex about cutting it. I don't know. Sandra, the sun gives us energy and the motivation to exercise. Exactly, Sandra. Exactly. A couple of months ago, it was cold and raining, cloudy. Blossom says, take that beard off. Why? That's the question. Why must I take it off? You see? You see? Now, Charmaine, that's the part I'm agonizing about. Charmaine says it makes me look distinguished on camera. Jeremy says 900 years now you're growing the beard, and now is when he's listen, man. We just got to work with what we got in there. We got to work with what we got. All right, we can arrange. Karen says we can arrange after work. Right, I hope your fee's not too expensive. Yeah, man. Yes, Jeremy. Yes, man. You see, you know, there's some women that actually do like beards. They think it actually looks manly. I think we've been so used to men being clean shaven for the last few decades. Now they're starting to grow beards again. It's taken a little bit to get used to. No, Karen, I'm not shaving it off. No. I think what I'll do, you know what, I'll compromise. I'll shave it down, take it down. But nah, not that off. No. No, not looking to look young, really, am I? So listen, let's talk about something that happened yesterday. Let's see if we can just put up a first slide, please, management. Something happened yesterday. You know all about it already, but it bears discussing again. Our dearly beloved Prime Minister has now decided, and the government has decided to now extend the lockdown for another 4 weeks. Did you know this was coming, or are you caught by surprise? What do you think? Do you expect that Boris was actually going to lift the lockdown? Is there a strategy to actually lift it? Or are they just keeping us hanging on? Is this a carrot and stick exercise? I don't know. I personally, I was hoping that they would lift it, but it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise that it's gone the way it has. Karen says I can give you a good price. All right, Karen. All right, nice one. We shall talk. Phil said I already said the third wave coming in August. Yeah, it looks like it. You know what? The thing is, you can tell that things are not right because they're prepping you beforehand, aren't they? They're sort of telling you about this variant, and we've got to keep an eye on it, and we'll make an announcement, and you just almost know. You know where this is going. Jemmy says control. It's about control. Yeah, but Jamie, why? What do you think they're trying to control us? What is it that they want? You know? Carolyn says, well expected, hence he married early. Political decision, not economic. Right. But what do you think? I mean, what do you, if that, okay, so they know it, but where are they going with this? Where do you think they're going with this? What are they getting out of it? If it's what we're assuming or we suspect. So Phil says Boris was due to get married in July, but got married on 15th of May. It's about jabbing the kids. Okay. Yeah, but does he need to actually lift, or rather keep the lockdown in place to do that? Right? Does he need to? Sandra says, from Boris brought his wedding forward, I was feeling it wasn't a good look for Joe Public. Yeah. You know what? Part of me is getting concerned that actually there will never ever, excuse me, never ever be a full return to any sort of normality. And I've just been sort of monitoring what the national conversation is, and yeah, I'm a bit concerned. I'm a bit concerned. But what do they want? Jimmy says civil disobedience. What? So yeah, yeah. But is the public up for that? Right now they're practicing civil obedience, aren't they? Are they up for that? I've noticed in a few shops now. I don't know if you've seen it, but they don't actually they're not so stringent on the masks now, are they? Some of these supermarkets, you can sort of go in there and buy your stuff and come out again. So I wonder if they're sort of, I wonder whether or not these supermarkets they're sort of seeing, oh well, the lockdown's going to be lifted, so let's just ease up ourselves. But Boris, man. Phil says this is the fourth industrial revolution. They want to replace us with AI as more. Well, man, where are they going? Where are they going? Yeah, the Great Reset. Yeah. You know what, Jeremy? Now you say that COVID is the new flu. All those taking jabs will have to do so for life. I wonder whether or not this whole thing now. Thinking about this now, check it. This whole thing about flu jabs that started a few years ago was all in preparation for this. What do you think? So Shaman says the public are more likely to protest in the hot summer months if they're locked down. Yeah. But interestingly, the response from the public for another 4-week lockdown is not a bad one for the government, is it? People aren't really complaining. I mean, the government had promised, oh, we're going to lift it and it's going to be indefinite and we'll go back to normal. It never happened, and the public are not up in uproar. Karen says they want us to be reliant on them. All their businesses going out of business. They don't care. It doesn't affect the affluent, only working class. Yeah, good point. Phil says government site states under highly contagious infectious diseases that C19 was no longer a threat in March 2020. Yeah, before they locked us down. Yeah, that's right. I did actually see that. You're right, Phil. It was dropped to a lower category. But what is this about? What do you think? I mean, we say control, we say the Great Reset, but how does that benefit them? Because could they not do anything they want now and just let us get on with life? Why do they need to go through all of this? Rudolph said they're setting us up to take the vaccine. There will be a fourth lockdown. Yeah, I feel that you're probably right in that, you know. I think that you're right. I think you're probably right. Yeah. If this was that bad, wouldn't the homeless globally be the first to die? I notice how they're sort of the major countries are really going out of their way to rush these vaccines out to the poorer countries, aren't they? I just saw a report on what Russia's doing in developing its vaccines and making sure that all the countries, you know, that need it get it. America doing the same. They really intend to actually have all the world vaccinated. Jeremy says it's the part where they're not telling us and how much money they are making. Yeah. I think also, I think maybe part of the reason also is to study how the public behaves. You know, like it's like a behavioral science. If the response of the public is compliant, then in reality there's not much they can't do with the public, right? The media has done a very effective job in pushing that message across, and people have, you know, they've gone for it. Now, I mean, if you've taken the vaccine, fair dues to you. But did you do it because the television said so, or did you actually look at the pros and cons and then make a decision? I wonder how many people actually did that. Do people actually sit down and say, you know what, okay, let me just look at both sides of the argument and then I'll take the vaccine? Or did they take it because 24/7 the news was being pumped out to them? So Jeremy says they said they need 11 billion jabs for the third world, and the G7 offered 1 billion. Yeah. I fear, to be honest with you, that the world is changing before our eyes in a way that we probably don't even imagine. And yeah, Jeremy, I am with you there with regard to the control. I know, and I believe money is part of it, but the other side, there's something else we're probably not understanding with regard to their motivation. Why would you do that? Because you've already got all the money you want, you've got the prestige, you've got everything. Why then impress this upon the public? Why do that? Let's just put up the next slide, please, management. I want to show you something. I've just been scouting around the internet, and no, the next one, please, man. Yeah, we know. Let's go for the next one. Right, and I've been scouting around the internet, and now I'm just trying to find out what the nation is actually saying, right? What's being discussed, particularly on breakfast news programs and current affairs programs. What are the arguments being put forward? And from what I've found, it suggests to me that the following things are going to be happening. So if we can just increase that, expand that screen a little bit, please? I want to show you guys something. I went onto YouTube and just sort of did a quick search of what was being discussed. I hope you can see it there from where you are. But some of the topics that has been discussed by Breakfast News particularly is, should COVID anti-vaxxers be prosecuted? Right? Should they be prosecuted? Now, understand this, when these discussions are happening, they're very polarizing. You're going to have some that are going to be for it, some are going to be against it. People who have had vaccinations are going to say, yes, they should be because we've had it. What's your problem? People who have not had vaccinations are going to talk about, obviously, the right not to have it if they choose so. So, should the COVID vaccine be made compulsory is another conversation. This is a national conversation that's going on, right? Whether vaccine passports are the key post-vaccinations. Let's have a look at another slide.
Girl, I just want me rock. Girl, I just want me rock. Girl, I just.
Babe, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting.
Come on.
Let's go back,
fine.
please. Let's go back. Sorry, go back to that. Go back to that slide before. Go back to that slide before. Right. Because the national conversation, what people are talking about, it gives you a pulse of what's going on in the nation, how people feel, right? These TV programs like Good Morning Britain and all that, they set up these arguments, and the pulse of the public is being checked for what they will and will not accept. And it has a polarizing influence on the public. In fact, you're going to have a situation soon where I believe that people who are vaccinated will be probably paid a commission to report those who have not been vaccinated. Right? There are clear dividing lines being made in the country between those who are vaccinated and unvaccinated, and I think you can see that in the national conversation, in the mood of people and what they're actually saying. Phil, what are you saying? Did you know, for example, that there was a protest for freedom, yes, outside Tin Dunster all day? No, not at all. And again, you don't expect that to, well, you should see it on the news, but you're not going to get that. You're not going to get, unfortunately, in this particular narrative, you're not going to get both sides of the argument on TV. It's not going to be allowed. There's one narrative, and we got to follow it. Yeah, I believe that. Phil said no mainstream media showed anything about the protests. Yeah. So there you go. So 4 weeks time, hopefully, we're going to get a full lifting of lockdown. Don't hold your breath. But let's see. Carrot and stick, huh? Carrot and stick. Now, quickly moving gears, changing gears. I want to talk about how do you break up with someone in a relationship? Now, I know it's a shift from COVID, but how do you like to break up with someone? And if you do break up, do you know what to say when doing so? Watch this video. Next slide.
Girl, I just want me back. Girl, I just want me back. Girl, I just.
Babe, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting.
Come on, it's fine. Babe, before we go, I need to tell you something.
What is it?
What I'm about to tell you is something I've been thinking for a very long time now, and I've come to a conclusion.
Babe, what is it? You're making me scared.
We've been dating for 4 years now, yeah?
Yes.
And I don't think I can be your boyfriend anymore.
Fire on the mountain! Ah!
What?
I don't think I want you to be my girlfriend anymore.
Not be juju be that.
Are you serious right now?
I'm very serious. Like dead serious. I want you to
Just shut up. What? You want me to be your what? Best friend? Friends with benefits? Are you mad? Baby girl, calm down. You know what? It's fine. I knew a day like this was going to come. That's why I have no regrets sleeping with your best friend, Femi.
What?
Yes, Femi and I have been having sex for the past 3 years now. You fool.
They never show you anything, Mumu.
I was going to say I can't be your boyfriend anymore because I want to be your husband.
Yeah, you forgot that since now.
You see?
You know I was joking, right? Babe, I'm so sorry. Baby, it's not what you think, babe. I'm so sorry, babe.
Just leave.
It's not what you think, I swear, babe. I'm so sorry, babe.
Get your hands off me.
Babe, come on, it's me.
Get your hands off me.
Babe, I'm so sorry.
Get out of my car.
Babe, I'm sorry. It's me, come on.
Get out.
Babe, I'm sorry.
I can't believe I've been a fool.
I am in severe pain.
To
be Mumu. You think say they wise. You want to please others and displease them. And they never leave. They have left you.
Oh dear. I played that for you because it actually reminded me of a situation I was in many moons ago. But you see, whenever you break up with someone or they break up with you and you get mad, be careful about what you say. Be careful about what you say. Be careful about what you say. Good. So, guys, we're going to do some Black history in a few moments, right? Because I want to try and make sure that the 8 o'clock, the people who come in at 8 o'clock, don't miss, and then we end up halfway through this this conversation. But in a little while, we are going to come to the Black history. I promise, and today will be a scorcher, right? It'll be really interesting, very much on the lines of last week. But we're gonna take that up to another level. So can we just show the next slide, please, man? I want to talk about something that's been going on. unless you've been living under a rock, you will know that the Euro 2020, postponed from last year, that's the European football competition, has just started in the last couple of days. But controversy again around the England team. If we can have the first slide, management. So again, the kneeling met with lots of boos from the English crowd, who did not like their players kneeling on behalf of Black Lives Matter. What? Good evening, Patrick Solomon. How you doing, sir? Now, do you think that the reason why the supporters are booing is because they know, or they've sort of researched that maybe Black Lives Matter is not the organization they are? Or do you think, as I suspect, that perhaps anything to do with sort of Black rights or liberation is often met with a frown by the general population? What do you think? I know some people say, well, you know, we're in this cancel culture age and all this kneeling is not necessary. But I wonder if that's the real reason. I wonder if behind the scenes, the idea is they don't want to make any acknowledgement of what's been happening, and so this sort of momentum of booing for players who are kneeling is sort of really it's taken up a lot of momentum. I wonder what you think about that, and whether should they kneel, should the players kneel, or is there something else that can be done to mitigate the current situation that we are trying to get? Are we concentrating on the right things? Are we concentrating on kneeling, removing statues? Is that the focus that Black people should be having, or should we be looking for things like reparations, for example, and changes to the law in the way Black people are particularly dealt with? What's your feeling about that? Because I personally think that if this continues and this kneeling and I think what's going to be stirred up, and I'm wondering, it's my conspiratorial mind, but I'm wondering whether this is definitely designed to create racial tension in the country. What do you think? What do you think? I don't know. Could it be? Could it be? Next slide, please. And even the Home Secretary Priti Patel weighed in on this question and said, "Well, yeah, you have a right to boo if players are kneeling, right?" So she's weighed in on it. Patrick says, while we're talking about Black Lives Matter, yes, Patrick, I was going to get to that. Yeah, I was going to get to that. Yeah, and that's definitely a point. But I just found it interesting that Priti Patel sort of weighed in on that matter, saying, "Well, yeah, you should be able to boo." I guess she would like to see an end to this whole kind of attention, that Black Lives Matter, or the whole situation around what Black people are going through, to be removed. They call it, it's referred to as identity politics. Identity politics being, well, if you're Black, if you're a woman, if you're from the LGBT community, if you have a gripe, as they see it, you are practicing identity politics. And obviously they argue against that. They want to do away with that. But of course, Black lives do matter. Now, and I think Patrick makes a very good point there, is we have a lot of our young people being killed, but we're not seeing any signs of Black Lives Matter within the community. What is that about, do you think? Black Lives Matter are there when white people are involved, they're jumping up and down, but not when Black people are killing each other. So what's going on there? Are you a supporter of Black Lives Matter? I support the actual phrase and the ideology. I don't particularly support the organization because their aims and goals don't seem to be improving the lot of the black community as far as I can see. But you might have a different take on that. What do you think? Next slide. Let's have a look. Can we see that next slide? Yeah, there you go. And some better news, thankfully, but not a lot better, has to do with St. Vincent, who are appreciating the support that we're giving them. But obviously there's more to be done. They still need our help and assistance, but at least it's good to know that some of the donations that we're making with regard to clothes, our monies and so forth is getting through to them. So that is good news. So you guys are quiet on me tonight. What, you're going to leave me to talk and talk my ears off? Talk your ears off? Where you? I bet you got off in the kitchen. You knew Mr. C wasn't going to be here, and you decided, look, everybody, shh, go quiet. Let him talk to himself for the show. Oh, come on. What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? We're here. So, look. I know. Let's get to the Black History now then, shall we? Because I'm gonna run out of conversation if I'm just talking by myself, right? So let's talk serious matters. Let's do the Black History, but after this message. Management. I'm going to do the Black History now, management. Can we have the ad, please? And then we'll do it. We'll come on the other side of the ads.
One Love Lottery is a new exciting weekly lottery established to help raise funds for our young people aged 17 to 25 and to generate community wealth in the UK. By playing One Love Lottery for just £1 per ticket, you also stand a chance of winning some amazing prizes, including our jackpot of £25,000 each week. Tickets are available from onelovelottery.co.uk or call 0208 183 1832 for more information. Draws are made every Saturday and you can play as many times as you like. Players must be 16 or over and reside in the UK. Please support One Love Lottery today. United we stand, divided we fall. One love.
Our birthday. Pull up! Did you miss celebrating your birthday with friends and family in 2020 or even this year? Then this is for you. A night where we can all celebrate milestones, even the ages we'd rather forget, like we used to, together. Sunday 11th of July, set sail on the Pearl of London from 8 till midnight. Meet us at Festival Pier from 6:30 p.m. for a free rum punch and canapé reception to set the mood. If we can pull up tunes, we can sure pull up our birthdays and come again. Hosted by Frankie Beverly, DJs Aloli, Frankie Too Sweet, 5th Avenue and ELC. Tickets £32 plus booking fee from Eventbrite. Don't miss our birthday. Pull up!
Excellent. Right. Back. Black History time. So what have we been talking about? Well, we'll come to that in a second. But before we do that, we need to play a couple of slides. The first slide identifies why Afro-Caribbean people are the Israelites of the Bible. So if we can have those slides up, please, management. And I'll talk you through it. If this is the first time you're watching the show or watching Black History, welcome. You are most welcome. We have been here talking about Black History for at least 8 months, every Tuesday, 8 p.m. And we have charted the journey of those who were taken away on ships into the New World. We have charted their origins, where they come from, and we have deduced, looking at all the documentation, not only biblical, but from European sources, books from the 17 and 1800s, that you are the Hebrews of the Bible. And here on your screen, you will see the reasons why we say that. We can actually also point out the verses you could check for yourself. And actually, if you do have a Bible, I would strongly encourage you to follow along, right? If you have a Bible on your phone, why not check along with me as we go through it and look at these verses? And you could do some research for yourself, or even screenshot anything you see and go back and research. Okay, it's all there. You wonder why more people aren't talking about this. Well, search me. But the evidence is all there. So, what are the reasons? Well, according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68, the Israelites were foretold in the future to be transported by ships. In Genesis 15:13, they were to be enslaved and oppressed for a period of 400 years. Jeremiah 17 verse 4 says that their identity would be stripped from them. So they would have a different identity to their original names. In addition to that, foreigners would also assume their identity. That's taken from Lamentations 5 verse 2, Revelation 2:9, and Revelation 3:9. They would also be ridiculed as a people. That's 2 Chronicles 7 and verse 20. And wherever they were taken, they would be at the bottom of that particular society. Even other foreigners would rise above them. And that's in Deuteronomy 28:44. Many of them would be hung from trees, Galatians 3:13, Deuteronomy 21:22. They would also be scattered to different nations around the world, Deuteronomy 28:64 and Luke 21:24. And they would be in constant fear of their life. And we can see that's true with our young people. Deuteronomy 28 verse 66. And there are many more we could enumerate, but we're doing this for the benefit of those who may be watching for the very first time, haven't heard this before, or they have heard it but not quite sure of the details. We're covering that again. And with that, notice what this pastor has to say in the next slide.
Now, let me say something right quick. I think back on the African-American people in America. I think how that they were taken against their wills, put in the belly of ships, brought over here, beat, cussed. Many of them died in the guts of those ships, thrown overboard. They were pulled from families over there. You ain't never heard a gut-wrenching song. You hear a black person sing one of those old black Negro spirituals. Nobody knows. I can't sing it like that, see, because I hadn't experienced what they be. When you've experienced hell, it comes out of the voice. I said, when you experience hell, it comes out of the voice. If you're one of those people that you got problem with black people or whatever, you better shut your mouth, because they're God's people. You better hear what I'm saying to you. You better shut your white mouth. You better shut your white mouth. I'm not kidding you. I know some of you was raised in the deep South and you was raised by prejudiced people and bigoted people. You better get that out of your system. You better get it out of your system. It'll cause you to suffer right along with those masters. It'll cause you to suffer right along with them. These are God's people. And I know that there's wicked in white races and wicked in black races and all that. I'm not justifying none of that stuff. I'm just saying God knows what happened to the black race. He knows how they wound up over here. And God is going to reimburse the black people for all their trouble and all their labor. You watch what I tell you. Watch what I tell you. Listen.
Good. So, continuing from last week's discussion, if you remember, 7 days ago we were discussing the correlation between whether there's a God and the idea of science. Now, we know that science has proven many things that have shown to be factual. So, does the existence of God, does the existence of the universe tie in with that science? Does it tie in with demonstrating that there is an actual creator? Well, we want to examine this in part 2 tonight, because we started our discussion last week, but we want to build on what we discussed to try and make a case for yes, the existence, the creator exists, and his existence and the existence of the universe ties in very much with updated scientific knowledge. So before we get into the science, let's take a quick look at our universe in this next slide. You know, regardless of how many times I've seen that video, I can't help but be amazed at the intricacies of the universe and also of the human body. And it really does take some explaining to do. And we're going to try and see if we can unravel some of this stuff again this evening. And remember, don't have your religious hat on for this conversation. You don't need it. You need a logical mind. Let's have the next slide, please. You need a logical mind, you need common sense, and an open mind, all right? And to see the connections that we are going to make with regard to the science, right? This is about the science of God. And I'm going to just cover briefly what we discussed last week. We went into some of this stuff in greater detail, but I'm going to skim over it to remind you of what we discussed. Now, in front of you, I'm hoping that you can actually see this particular screen, okay? Because this is a scientific equation for power and how power is measured. Now, if you can see the underline there, I hope you can on your screens. It does say, it says, when work is done on an object, energy is transferred. Right, so when work is done on an object, energy is transferred. And then the rate at which the energy is transferred is called power. So if you look at your screen in the bottom half of the section, there's a formula there that shows how we arrive at power. So energy that's put into an object divided by the time it takes to do that equals power. So let me demonstrate. Okay, here is my beat up kettlebell. Karen, I'm going to be bringing this with me when we do our training. Right, here's a kettlebell. So energy, which is everywhere. Okay, can you see it? Can you see? Can you see? There you go. Right, energy, which is everywhere, all around, and it's in me, but by itself cannot do anything unless directed. So once you actually demonstrate and direct your energy into an object over a period of time, you have demonstrated power. Power. On its own, the object does nothing. Energy does not do anything to that object. Even if I were to will it, it will not move. But if I direct it with my energy, it moves. And that is the formula for power. Power equals energy over time. Now, what has this got to do with anything? Let's look at the next slide and see how this relates to a creator. So, in Isaiah chapter 40, the Most High is speaking here, and he invites us to look up at the sky, and he asks a question: who created these things? It says, is he who brings it forth one by one and calls them by their names? How do they get to be there? The next line says, because of his great power. His great power. Power equates to energy over time. So notice, power is very much related to energy. Next slide. So bear in mind too, with the advancement of science and the way it's helped us to understand our world and our universe, people have often come to feel that, well, the Bible actually is a book of old myths. It doesn't have to have anything to say that's relevant for our day, and it's pretty much outdated. And they cite the fact that, for example, look at the time-space-matter continuum. The time-space-matter continuum says that within the universe and space, three things must always exist: time, space, and matter. So let me give you an example. If you were going to meet your friend, in order to meet that person, you will need these three elements. You will need time. So what time are we meeting? Space, as in what part of the space are we meeting? What's the location? And matter, where are we going? In where? So time, space, and matter are essential elements to have within the universe. In fact, science says, well, you couldn't have the universe without it. So how does that tie in with what the Bible has to say? Next slide. Genesis 1, the very first verse of the Bible, says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, many of us have read that many times, haven't it? Growing up in the church or at school, we might have read it in RE classes, but what does that really mean? if we were to actually break that verse down, what you're seeing in that one verse is time, space, and matter. Why? In the beginning, time. God created the heavens, space, and the earth, matter. Time, space, matter is explained in the very first verse of the Bible. Who would have thought that? We are grateful to science for helping us to understand our universe, because it also helps us to understand whether, if there is a creator, what does he say? What is explained about the way that he's created the universe, and whether they line up with scientific principles. Next slide. Now here's a very interesting slide. This comes from Cornell University, answering a question about where did matter in the universe come from. So when we talk about matter, we talk about solid objects. Anything you put your hands on, you touch is matter. Your matter, your table, your chair, this is all matter. So where did the matter come from? So what is the scientific answer to that question? So on the underline there, you'll see it says, in the beginning, right, there was not yet any matter. So there were no solid objects. This is a scientific explanation. There were no solid objects, right? However, there was a lot of energy in the form of light. So I want you to remember that. Energy in the form of light. So there was no matter, no solid objects, but you had energy in the form of light. Next slide. And coincidentally, as if by magic, in 1 John chapter 1, we read that this is the message we have heard from him and declare to you. What message is that? God is light. God is light. What did we, hold on a second, hello, hold on, crossbody, easy. What did we just read a moment ago? What was the definition of where did matter come from? There was no matter in the beginning, but there was energy in the form of light. And coincidentally, we are reading in the scriptures that God is light. Now, not that he is light in itself, but he embodies light. Energy, according to science, existed in the form of light. Bible points out that God is that light. Next slide. Here's another verse. James chapter 1. I believe that's verse 17, sorry. So it says, every good and perfect gift comes down from the Father, right? So that's the Most High, who created all the lights in the heavens. So the creation of light, which is the form of energy science says existed before matter came into being, was created by the Father above, according to James chapter 1. Are we seeing this connection? Light, energy, matter. God is light. He created the lights. And out of that, we're going to see what took place. Next slide. First Timothy chapter 6. Talking about God again, this is describing him. He says, God, the blessed and only ruler, the King of kings and Lord of lords, who alone is immortal, listen, who dwells in unapproachable light. So we have God is light, he created the lights, and he dwells in light. What does science say? Long before matter was created, there was energy in the form of light. Next slide. Good evening, Christopher.
How and when did our universe begin? How did it get to look like this? How will it end? Humans have been discussing these questions for as long as they've been around, without ever reaching much agreement. Today, cosmologists are working hard to find the answers. But how can anyone hope to find concrete answers to such profound questions? And how is it possible to explore and study something as huge as the universe, most of which we'll never be able to reach? The answer is light. And although light from distant parts of the universe can take billions of years to reach us, it carries 6 unique messages that, when put together, can disclose an amazing amount of information to astronomers who know how to look for it. Just as sunlight can be split up into the familiar rainbow, splitting the light from distant objects exposes different patterns of colors depending on its source. This distinctive light barcode can reveal not only an object's composition, but also the temperature and pressure of its constituent parts. There's even more we can discover from light. If you've ever stood on a train platform, you might have noticed that the train sounds different depending on its direction, with the pitch ascending when it approaches you and descending when it speeds away. But this isn't because the train conductor is practicing for a second career. Rather, it's because of something called the Doppler effect, where sound waves generated by an approaching object are compressed, while those from a receding object are stretched. But what has this to do with astronomy? Sound does not travel through a vacuum. In space, no one can hear you scream. But the same Doppler effect applies to light whose source is moving at exceptional speed. If it's moving towards us, the shorter wavelength will make the light appear to be bluer, while light from a source that's moving away will have a longer wavelength, shifting towards red. So by analyzing the color pattern and the Doppler shift of the light from any object observed with a telescope, we can learn what it's made of, how hot it is, and how much pressure it's under, as well as whether it's moving, in what direction, and how fast. And these 6 measurements, like 6 points of light, reveal the history of the universe. The first person.
Good. So, light plays a very, very important part in the universe. And that seems very, very obvious, because that is the means by which scientists can calculate the age of the universe. And light also plays a very important part within the Bible, where God is concerned. And science has said, before matter came into being, there was energy. And energy existed in the form of light. Next slide. So again, we look at the Psalm 104. Talking about the Most High, it says, the Lord wraps himself in light as with a garment. So obviously that's metaphorical speech, but it basically says that God is clothed in light. In other words, he is the embodiment of light. It is his light that shines in the darkness for which everything else lights up. He is that source. Science agrees with that. Science agrees with that. Let's have another explanation in this next short video. Oh, is it 40? No, it's not. Let's go back. Next slide, please. Just next slide. Just something I quickly want to talk about again. Just to remind you very quickly, where did the matter in the universe come from? It came from light. Came from energy in the form of light. This is what this is saying. And we're showing how the light, which science discusses, connects with the light that the scriptures discuss. Now let's look at this video.
And is a huge deal, and it's only getting bigger. Expansion pun. Okay, so if that's all true and our universe is expanding and isotropic, what does that even mean? Think of our universe as baking raisin bread. If each of the raisins is a galaxy, as the bread bakes, the dough rises, and the raisin galaxies expand away from each other along with the rise in all directions at once. If this happens irregularly, then the universe is anisotropic, like the grain of a tree. It's stronger, or it tends to have layers, or striations, where it might expand faster or slower. Isotropic universes, like ours, they don't have those. They're consistent, smooth, homogeneous, symmetrical. Ours is all that. According to astronomer Phil Plait, it's expanding at 74.2 kilometers per second per megaparsec, plus or minus 3.6 kilometers. It's now called the Hubble constant. A galaxy 10 megaparsecs away, Plait wrote for Discover magazine, would be moving away from us at 742 kilometers per second. Basically, every million years, galaxies are 0.007% farther away from each other. Trust me, that's really, really fast. And thanks to dark energy, it's actually getting faster, but that's a whole other story. So I'm sure you're thinking, okay, cool, our isotropic infinite universe is expanding. Fantastic. Expanding into what?
Thank you. So, what I want you to get from that video is what science has now proven, that the universe is expanding constantly. And he made he gave the analogy of it being like bread with raisins on it. So the bread will rise, and what happens as it rises, the galaxies move further apart from each other. Okay, so the universe is expanding. That is a fact. Nobody's denying that. Science has proven it. Let's have a look at this next slide now. So here we have in Science magazine confirming what the video just said, right? So it says at the bottom there, it says a simple explanation of mysterious space stretching dark energy. So what scientists have found is that there is something called dark energy, which is causing the universe to stretch. Okay? That is what's creating the expanding universe. Now, does a book that was written thousands of years ago have anything to say about an expanding universe? Next slide. That's an illustration of an expanding universe. To the left is the single point of origin. Okay, look, and then as the universe develops in time, it stretches out. Now, look at the scripture that we've got there underneath that particular, I hope you can see it, taken from Isaiah 44. This is the Lord speaking again, the Most High. I am the Lord, the maker of all things, who stretches out the heavens. Who stretches out the heavens. Who spreads out the earth by myself. How did the Bible know about stretching out the heavens? Thousands of years later, we're now talking about the heavens being stretched, the universe being stretched, or expanded, as they say. Next slide. Zechariah 12, the same thought occurs again. Right? It says the Lord who stretches out the heavens. And there are numerous verses in the Bible that talks about this. You might, if you're really interested in searching this out, you can actually look up the word stretches in the Old Testament particularly. It talks about how God does this. A lot of the descriptions are about him, are about what he has done with regard to the universe. So it said the Lord who stretches out the heavens and lays the foundations of the earth, and who forms the human spirit within a person. So again, stretching. The universe is continually stretching. The Bible says the Most High is stretching the heavens. Science says that before anything was created, before matter, there was energy in the form of light. The Bible says God is light. God is enveloped in light. God is the Father of the lights. Let's continue. Next slide.
We can see how atoms are made up of a nucleus surrounded by a cloud of electrons.
Think about the structure of an atom. There's a positive charge to the nucleus, and then the electrons have a negative charge. These two attract each other.
To explain this attraction, quantum physicists Think that both protons and electrons spit out short-lived bursts of photons. Oppositely charged particles absorb each other's light, and this draws the particles together. This attractive force is known as electromagnetism.
Atoms themselves would not hold together if it weren't for electromagnetic forces.
Electromagnetism also causes atoms to stick together, to create the molecules that form us and everything around us.
Electromagnetism is responsible for the very structure of our matter, atoms holding together.
Molecular bonds in our bodies, those are bound together by electromagnetic interactions, and therefore they're bound together by light.
So notice what he says there. The universe is bound together by electromagnetism and therefore is bound together by light. Now, why is this important to understand? Because it's one thing for a universe to come into existence, but it's another thing to keep it in existence. So just as it takes a tremendous amount of energy to bring about a universe, it equally requires a tremendous amount of energy to keep everything in its place so that planets don't smash into each other, stars don't fall out of the sky, and various other things. Next slide. Let me illustrate this. Let's read the verse and then we're going to talk about this. Okay? So Nehemiah chapter 9 and verse 6, speaking about the Most High. Thou, even thou, art Lord alone. Thou hast made the heavens of the heavens with all their host, the earth and all the things therein, the seas and all the things therein. Right? So it's just crediting Most High with what he's done. But here is the important verse. It says, and thou, in other words, you, speaking to God, you preservest them all. In other words, you keep them running. You keep them running. The universe cannot just exist on its own and not be maintained by the same forces that brought it into existence. Now, if you look on your screen, you're going to see a picture of a mobile phone. We all have one of those. Now, when your phone is fully charged, you might have a day or two of constant use of your phone. But what do you have to do once the battery starts running out? You have to plug it into a mains, which leads to a power station. It is the power station that allows you continuous use of your phone. If you had a power cut, what would happen? Once the batteries of your phone died, it would be useless. Your phone would have to be thrown into the bin. So if you imagine that the power station is this source of energy that can maintain a universe in the same way that a power station can maintain electrical appliances, you have to understand that the power station has to keep working all the time, dispensing the energy to keep electrical products working. In the same way, the Most High uses the energy not just to create, but as the scripture says there, to preserve it. Because if he didn't preserve it, even the scientists that we just looked at in the video before said that it'd be chaotic. So, we have light, which is the first form of energy that existed before matter came into being. Matter comes into being and must be sustained by electromagnetism, which is light. Next slide. So let's cover this ground again that we did last week about the Most High and who created him. Because that's often the very first question you get when you say, well, yeah, I believe in a God. Well, who created him then? Right? And people often ask that question confidently thinking that they're going to stump you because you don't have an answer to that. Well, hopefully, if you pick up anything from our discussion tonight, I want you to remember this so that you can give an answer, particularly to people who are interested, who are wondering. You have a lot of people out there who, you know, they're what you call agnostic. They think something's out there. Maybe some of you guys watching, you think something's out there, you're not sure, but you need an explanation, something that makes sense because you can't make sense of it. You used to go to church, and we're going to try and make some scientific sense with it based upon known science. That's why we say, take off your religious hat for a second. Just use your logic, an open mind, and common sense, and see how these things are interlinked. Okay? So, who created God? And does God's existence harmonize with science? That's what we want to talk about. Next slide. Now, earlier we looked at this particular slide, which is the first verse in the Bible, in Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, the question is, what beginning is this? What beginning is this? The beginning in the Bible is when time actually started. Right? Time actually started in the beginning, in this verse here. So when God started to create the heavens of the earth, that was the beginning of time. And if you look on the screen, if you look at my little slide there, you will see that that netting figure that's under the earth and going all the way to the background. That represents time. So when God started to create, time then began. Prior to creation, there was no time. I know. See, we've only known time because we only know things that come into existence and then are destroyed, right? So animals and humans, living things. But before all of that started, there was no time. Certainly not as we know time now, right? Next slide. Now, how can we illustrate this? Well, we can do that by using a cup, okay? Remember earlier we spoke about how science says that within the universe you must have three elements: time, space, matter, okay? Without them, you don't have a universe effectively, right? So, time, space, and matter. I want you to imagine it's like your teacup. Don't worry, Chris, you're going to get it, bro. You're going to get it because we're going to come out over it again. Don't worry. Time, space, and matter is like your teacup. If you imagine a teacup is like your universe, within that cup exists time, space, and matter. The tea bag represents all creation. But notice, there is a hand outside of that cup, that universe, that section of time, space, and matter. There is a hand putting the tea bag within the cup, putting living things within time, space, and matter. So again, if I am the Most High, here is the universe I have created. Within the universe, I place my creation. But where am I? Am I in the universe or outside of it? If the universe has time, space, and matter contained within it, and I, as the Most High, am not in it, that means I am not constrained by it. So everything within the universe that I have created as the Most High has a beginning. But because I have created it, I don't have a beginning. Let me repeat that. This cup represents the universe with time, space, and matter, as science tells us. I then create living things, placing within that universe. But I, as the creator, am not in there. I'm not in time, I'm not in space, and I'm not in matter. Why? Because I created it. Therefore, I'm not bound by it. I am not bound by a beginning. I am not bound by an end. I'm not bound by solid objects. I'm not bound by space and travel and the ability to see everything that needs to be seen in the universe. I merely do this and look into the universe. I may even decide as the creator to maneuver events to my will. All the while, I am not bound by the constraints of time, of space, of matter. So the answer to the question is, who created God? No one. No one. Because God exists outside of time, space, and matter. So when the Bible says, in the beginning, at that point is when God started to create this construct. That's when time began. He existed before time. Therefore, he is timeless. Hit me up in the comments if that's not making sense. I can explain it again. I'll keep explaining until you try. I know it's a bit of a head turner because we're not used to timelessness and eternity and this sort of thing. We don't have these types of discussions. And when we think of things, everything is in a time. Everything moves sequentially in a time. There's a beginning and there's an end. That's all we've always known. And that applies to each of us, but it does not apply to the Creator. He can manipulate time. He can manipulate space and he can manipulate matter. That's why when you read the Bible about some of the great miracles that were caused, for example, like the parting of the Red Sea. Come on, man, that's that's child's play to the Most High compared to putting a universe, creating the blueprint for a universe and sustaining it by his power. Parting the Red Sea is nothing. Making the sun stop shining while the Israelites are in battle is nothing. Raising Christ from the dead for the Most High. What is that compared to the actual creation of the universe from energy into matter? You put the comparisons together, just using logic here. We're using logic here. The Most High does not exist in time and space. But anytime he wants to visit, he can do that. Anytime he wants to change things to bring a certain result, he can do that. He's not bound by any of those restrictions that we have imposed upon us. That's why, for example, you read in the scriptures when it talked about after Christ died and was raised up, his disciples were hiding in a room upstairs. And it said Christ walked through the door. He walked through the door. Being the Son of God, he could do that. Why? Because he, in his resurrected body, was no longer constrained by matter. He could pass through matter. I know. It's a bit of a head scratcher, I know. But it's just the way we look at time. Time applies to all of us as human beings and to animals, but does not apply to the Most High. Let me explain this further. Next slide. That is why, you see, if you look at this slide carefully that I've got up on the screen, In the book of Psalms, when describing the Most High, it says, you have always been God. In other words, there was never a time when you were not God. There was never a time when you came into existence. You have always been in existence. Right? Long before the birth of the mountains, even before you created the earth and the world. So the existence of God has always been there before time. When he started creating, that's when time started. Next slide. Now, let me just go back to a slide we discussed earlier about how matter came into being. Science says that matter came into being through energy in the form of light. Okay? Now, in science, you have something called the first law of thermodynamics. Right? Pardon me. So, this particular law is with regard to energy, right? Remember, energy existed in the form of light, right? So what is it? So what are we told here? Let me read this to you, right? Read along with me if you can see your screen. It says the first law of thermodynamics is generally thought to be the least amount to grasp, as it is an extension of the law of conservation of energy. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So let's think about that for a second. Energy existed before matter came into being. Science says that energy was in the form of light, right? Science also says that energy could never be created or destroyed. That means it always existed. Coincidentally, the Bible says the Most High has always existed as well, and that he is the source of light. And science says energy was in the form of light. So even the first law of thermodynamics actually, without realizing it, backs up the idea that there was a God that existed before the creation of the world and was timeless. Lived for endless eons in the past and will continue for endless eons into the future. The first law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. The scriptures say, Most High existed long before creation. And the Most High used his energy to demonstrate his what? His power. His power to create the universe. So God has always existed, energy has always existed, and energy has always existed in the form of light. The Bible says God is light. He is the father of the lights. Christ is called the light of the world. God's people are called to be a light unto the nations. This light theme follows continuously throughout the Bible. Because light comes from God. In the opposite direction, darkness is always associated with the devil and things that you do that are bad. So, for example, we might say, if we saw someone doing something that we didn't approve of, you know what, don't trust that guy, he's dark, you know. He's dark. The Bible uses those same types of metaphor in making the difference between works that are good and works that are bad by showing light against darkness. Light emanates from God, darkness emanates from the devil. But it's very important to remember, science says energy existed in the beginning from, or rather existed as light. That is the point, right? Next slide. So again, just to remind you again, if you didn't see it, Cornell University answered the question, where did matter in the universe come from? In the beginning, there was not yet any matter, so there's no solid objects. However, there was a lot of energy. So remember, nothing's been created. There was a lot of energy. That's the first law of thermodynamics. Energy existed. How did it exist? In the form of light. Bible says God is light. He's the father of light. He's enveloped in the light. He's surrounded by light. He is the light. Psalm 127 says, God is my light and my salvation. Who shall I fear? Next slide. So, logic, common sense, and an open mind is the way we need to approach these types of things. We're not scientists. We don't know science, but we can use scientific information in a logical manner and compare it to what the Bible says in order to understand how we actually got here. So science speaks about energy. It speaks about light. It speaks about stretching of the universe or expansion. These are scientific facts. It speaks about power equates to energy over a period of time. Bible says God has great power. The universe needs to be sustained. So it's not just power required to create, it's power that needs to maintain. Like you buy a car, you've got a car, but what? You've got to maintain it, you've got to do MOT, you've got to put petrol, right? You've got to give it a service. Maintenance is required. That takes a great amount of energy. Science doesn't disagree with that. We saw the video on electromagnetism, is how things are locked together as atoms, right? The scientist says, and where electromagnetism is where you find light. So we are being sustained in this universe and on this planet by virtue of God's light, God's power. Next slide. Now, this slide here should explain to you now, after we talked about the universe, time, space, matter, how God controls, right? This should now help you to understand, right, why God can talk about things thousands of years in advance. You see, because if you look at the screen there, you will see I've got time, I've got the earth there, and at the top of the screen you'll see in the box is the word creator, and in green it's energy, right? So God demonstrates his power through his energy. But because he has created the universe and time began when he started creating, therefore he exists outside of time, the Most High can look into time and foretell thousands of years in advance what's going to happen. In fact, we've talked about the prophecies that Abraham received about his descendants would be enslaved for 400 years. And from the time that the Most High spoke to Abraham, that did not come true for another 3,500 years. Abraham probably had no idea what was happening when he heard those words. But when the Most High said in Genesis 15:13, you will be taken enslaved and oppressed for a period of 4 in a foreign land that you do not know. The Most High was talking about 3,500 years into the future. How could he do that? Only if he could look into time by being outside of time. He could see. That's why he can be spoken of as the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I know the end from the beginning. Why? Look at your screen, look at the slide. Where is he? He is not bound by the concept of time which he himself created. So when you read of prophecies in the Bible, understand that these men who wrote these words usually had no idea what they were writing. So on the actual image there, you'll see I put past and future. So the past would have been when they would have received those prophecies, yet the future was when those prophecies would be realized. But they had no idea how. So think about this. The great energy it took to create the universe through energy, which existed as light, which created all matter, time, and space. That power, is he not able to see ahead of time a concept that he himself created? Logically, should he not be able to do that? That's why if you look at the verse underneath that particular image, it says, you have always been God, long before the birth of the mountains, even before you created the earth and the world. God has always been there, and he will always be there. He's not tied into time like we are. We may die one day. We were born a while ago. But such limitations do not apply to the Most High. That's why in many areas of the Bible you see where God says, do not trust in men, do not trust in your rulers, because they will die, even with the best of intentions. But God's promises, his prophecies must come true. Why? Because he's going to see them through. He'll be there. He was there when he uttered them. He's going to be there when he fulfills them. Well, I guess the question is, are we going to be there? Right? Next slide. So, conceptually, I understand this could be a bit baffling. And the Most High understands that. And so he's written to tell us, look, just as the heavens are higher than the earth, my thoughts and my ways are higher than yours. Exceedingly high. We haven't got a clue, really. Even scientists say we've only been able to measure a fraction of the universe. There's so much more to discover. We haven't even categorized all the animals and insects on the earth. There's so much man doesn't know. But we're going to question God and say, well, you don't exist, right? Because somebody should have created you, because we were all created, so you should have had a beginning. But the ways of God are not like that. It's not the way we think. He created time, universe, time, space, matter, living things. He can foretell the future by looking. He can manipulate if he so chooses. He can alter the course of history. But he himself is not bound by time. He can move or have his messengers move through space at astonishing speeds. His son walked through doors and walls. The rules of matter do not apply to these beings because they're greater than humans. Next slide. Now, here's the interesting thing. Scientists have said, and I just mentioned a moment ago, that they don't know when they'll be able to measure the universe. They've only got a fraction of it, right? They haven't even completely categorized the earth. And incidentally, the Bible makes the very same point. And this is God speaking to his prophet. He says, can you measure the heavens? That's the universe. Can you explore the depths of the earth? Do you know everything that's going on this planet? Do you know every creature? Have you categorized every flora and fauna? And just to emphasize how difficult that would be, God says, look, that's how hard it would be, right? Comparing the fact that you can never know the universe, you can never know even this earth. God said it will be that difficult for humans, and it will be that difficult for him. Notice it says, that's how hard it would be for me to reject Israel forever, even though they have sinned. Now, let me explain. The impossibility of science ever coming to know the universe in its totality, ever coming to know the totality, it's so difficult. It's the same difficulty God has to reject his people, which is you. Such is his love for you, that even though your ancestors broke the covenant, ended up in slavery for a period of time, the Most High has promised to redeem his people. And there is no way he is going to break that promise. That would be too hard for him to do. It will be as hard for him to do that, to break off from his people, as it would be for scientists to measure the heavens. So, science will not know everything there needs to be known. They are constantly learning and constantly sharing their knowledge that we can see is also covered in God's creation of the universe. However, question must be asked, see, what is the purpose of your life? So we've done this scientific chat. What is the purpose of your life on earth? Is it just to have a good time, to rave, party, have lots of sex, lots of drink, lots of holidays? Is that the meaning of life? Consider, for example, the great power, as we said, that was required to bring the earth into being, to bring the universe into existence. Did the Most High do all that, put you here, call you his people, just so you can have a great time with your life? Is that the purpose of your life? Well, we're going to answer that next week, right? We're going to talk about next week. Talk about the reason for your existence. We've already spoken about who you are, but I'm going to build on this whole idea of why. Why do you exist? God has gone through so much trouble to put you here, call you his people. What is the purpose of your life? Can we just look at the last slide, please? And if I can just encourage you, viewers, and those of you silent viewers, those of you commenting, can we just show the last slide, please? There's a slide there to end off, management. I want to show you a slide there where I want to encourage you, if you have a Bible, a physical Bible at home, to try and pick it up and read it. If you don't have one, you can go to Play Store. Okay, can we just enlarge the slide, please? Go to Play Store and you can type in Audio Bible. Okay, Audio Bible. And I have circled there the type of Bible that would be useful to you. And what you can do is basically you can access it on your mobile. You can either read it or have it read to you, right? You can have it read to you. And if you start at the Psalms, you're going to hear a lot of verses concerning the universe, the heavens, the stars, how God made it, some of the methodology. But the Bible, although not a science book, when it covers creation, when it covers existence, is very much in harmony with what science now knows. What does science now know? Science knows energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It always existed. What form did energy take before matter came into being? Light. What does the Bible say about the Most High? God is light. He is my light and my salvation. He is enveloped in light. That light, that energy, is what was used to create the universe and to sustain it continually. Science says the universe is ever expanding, stretching. What does the Bible say? God is stretching the heavens. How did God come into being? Who created him? No one. Why? Because time only started when he created the universe, all living things, time, space, matter. Most High is outside, not bound by those constraints. Now, it took thousands of years for scientists to recognize these laws, but the Most High knew these laws, he made them. Scientists have now just discovered them. And now we can use those laws, make comparisons to scriptures, and find that fit. So when you hear how science has debunked the Bible or debunked the existence of God, actually science has more in common with God's existence than it realizes. And so with that, next week we're going to talk about your purpose, what the Most High wants from you, from me, okay? We're going to do a little bit more science talk, and then we're going to go into the meaning of life and answer some very, very difficult questions, because on this platform, we're not afraid to answer the difficult questions. Your pastor can't tell you. Some of your church-going friends may not be able to tell you, but we can share what we know. We don't know everything, but we know something. So we hope you enjoyed this edition of Black History. Thank you for joining and supporting me for What a Week. We will be back again next week. Mr. C will be here, God willing. He's on celebrity duty tonight, so that's why he was not here for the show. But I hope you learned something from our discussion. If you need to hear this again, please replay it, check it, come back. If you've got any questions next week, I'm happy to sort of discuss any of those points. But until next week, this has been Tony Crossbody. What a Week with an absent Mr. C. Black history, light, energy. God exists. Expanding universe. Time, space, matter. Thank you very much for your attention. Good night and God bless.